Back home now, the city of Minot's most recent 6-month housing study is done. Some of the key findings presented before the council this week found that Minot has a good mix of multifamily, senior, and affordable housing units. According to the report, low to moderate income households were found to be cost burdened and stretched. Councilmember Carrie Evans says the only category facing a deficit of housing within the city are poor and working class families.
We see on page 79 certain occupations, and the occupations that we're desperately in need of: daycare providers, teachers, healthcare workers, restaurant servers, grocery clerks, being the least able to afford housing in our community. So this is a huge issue.
Tom Layton, a Stantec consultant who conducted the report, says an increase in the housing supply can reduce housing costs. He suggested the city could make policies that lead to more housing production, but they would have to communicate those changes with developers.